Hey there, sports fans. Today's video is going to be on replacing the front struts on a 2005, Natalie?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2005 Subaru Outback. Similar is probably for the Legacies and the Foresters as well. But we'll be going through this today, and let's get started. Okay, the first thing we'll do to get started is to jack up the car. If you do not have air or power tools to remove the lug nuts from the air, then I would do that first. Just break the torque on those and then raise the vehicle. Otherwise, if you do have power tools like we'll be using, you can go ahead and jack up the vehicle and then remove the lug nuts after that. This piece is attached to your frame, which is why I'm going to use it. But we'll see if it flexes at all.
Okay.
No, yeah, it's good.
I think that's the spot. That's the spot.
So you see two little notches on the sidewall. That's what the manufacturer recommends for using your scissors jack. So that's what we'll use for our jack stands. Don't forget eye protection and hearing protection. This is a 19mm lug nut, and then we have our little attachment for the security lug nut. So we'll be using that. There we go. Set to reverse. Impact gun has been oiled for the day. Okay, and then you have to remove your strut mount bolts eventually. So we're going to go ahead and do those first. I will remove all three, and then on just one of them, I will gently just kind of do a couple turns with the nut to keep that in place, so that when we remove the camber bolts from the strut mount below, then it won't drop.
Here I start removing the top nuts on the strut mount, and I have to grab an extension to reach the rear too.
It's moving already. So I'm going to go ahead and put that nut on there, a couple turns worth.
Yeah, I can see it definitely dropping down. Does it not usually do that?
Usually it's a little bit more stuck, but I mean that's not a bad thing.
Okay.
It just means you have probably less rust and debris holding it up, you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to be taking off the bolts that are attached to the bracket supporting both your brake hose that runs the hydraulic fluid and your ABS cable sensor. And they're both 12mm, same as the nuts that were up top. So we'll just pull that to the side. And always get in the habit of putting the bolt back where it belongs so that you don't lose it.
Cool.
Because they're all different. Unless it's going to be in the way for the rest of your repair, then you would want to set it to the side. I've even taken masking tape and we'll like literally label things because I'm a nerd and OCD, but this is how I do it. So we have our floor jack set up here. I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure underneath our wheel assembly so that when we remove these strut mount bolts, this is your upper camber bolt. We will be marking this bolt because this is where your alignment is set at. And once we get the bolt off, you'll see it's a little bit oblong, like an oblique kind of a shape, or like an elliptical type shape. What do you call that? Oval type shape. That way when we go to reassemble, we can put it right where it needs to be, and then hopefully when she goes to recheck her alignment, they won't have to move it at all. That'd be nice. All right. So just use your wrench. Maybe we should get a closed end one. There we go. That'll fit in there. And this is just to hold it, but you'll be removing the nut on this side. Let's take this bottom one off and see if it comes a little bit easier.
A little bit different now.
A little bit of gentle persuasion. This one looks like it has a washer on the side, but now that they're both off, you can kind of tell the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
See how this one has a little bit more meat to it towards the top, and this one is just a straight shaft. So this is your top one. Don't confuse it. And also the top one had a washer on the back side, so that'll further help to distinguish between the two. Alright, so we should be able to lower this assembly.
Cool.
So for this part, and I could always ask for help since I have it, but
Yep.
I hold up the strut with one hand, remove that remaining nut with the other, and then when I come down here, just carefully get it out so you're not damaging your cable. There you go, out with the old. Thanks, man. Alright, and then in with the new. Before you get started, make sure that your mounting bracket is facing out.
Here I am aligning the strut with the mounting holes on the frame. You'll probably have to spin the top of the strut to align those studs with the holes that are in the frame, and then again hand tighten one or two of those nuts to secure it in place while you assemble the rest.
And we'll tighten those later to spec. And we'll come back down.
This fast-forwarded process is to just show that bottom bolt that I assembled first. That's the smooth one that's not oblong.
Alright, that is in place and started. And then we have our funky one with our Sharpie mark from earlier. Perfect. And then we'll get those tightened. Okay, and then I had my left and right bolt for both the hydraulic brake hose and your ABS sensor. That one went on really well. This one is kind of struggling. A little bit of wiggle and gentle persuasion. Perfect. So we'll get that going, torque these to spec, these chamber bolts to spec, and the ones up top to torque spec. For the bigger bolts on the lower strut mount, it's to 129. So we have our torque wrench set to that. We get our righty-tighty, get our open end wrench set up, and start wrenching away. Okay, I'm gonna need an extension, a torque extension bar. Okay, 129. Let's see if we're there.
Does it beep when you're there?
Yeah. Alright, 129 on both of those. Next, I'm going to get an entirely different torque wrench altogether. I think this only goes to 20 something, so we'll get the one that's a little bit more appropriate for the lower end of the torque range. Okay, our next torque setting is 24 pounds, so we're going to use a smaller torque wrench for that. And this is for these two brackets. Doesn't take much to get to 24. Alright, 24 there. And then we'll get up top and set those to 15 is the number we found. Alright, and the torque setting for the upper mount is actually only 15. 15, 20. I think I'm going to do 20. I don't trust this team. Oh! The new nuts are a different size. They are standard, not metric. How dare they? Don't they know this is a Subaru? I also need my trusty extension. Last but not least, all right, 20 is what I ended up using on the upper strut mounts. Yeah, we're done. Repeat the same for the other side, and this job is complete. It's probably easier than replacing brakes. Pretty easy. Since we didn't film this on the other side, we're going to film it for this side. Of course, then after you reassemble everything, you get your tires back on. Okay, once I get them all threaded by hand, I then come around with my torque limiting sticks attached to my... Ooh. Attached to my impact gun. Get that set to the highest speed. Thank you. Safety! So I have 65 on there now, and then we'll step it up to the 100 after we get all these tightened. And of course, make sure you go in a star pattern every time you go to reassemble. Alright, and then 100 foot-pounds, still maintaining that same circular star pattern. Then once you go around in the star pattern, I always do a complete circle just for whatever reason. If you happen to forget one, you know you didn't, but do it anyway, because that's thorough and complete. Alright, Natalie is back from her test drive. She is excited. That's her cat clapping in the background. But once you take it around the block, run it up and down some bumps and whatnot, make sure that everything is good and solid, and then these lug nuts had a chance to kind of settle, then we're going to go back around and retorque it so that they don't come loose. Natalie is gone for the evening, but she is on her way to go get the alignment checked. That is very important after any type of front end work where you are potentially going to be messing with it. We took great care and caution to mark the upper chamber bolts. I still might be saying that wrong. Upper camber bolts to ensure that the alignment wasn't messed with, but it still needs to be checked. Hopefully nothing has to be moved, because that's always an additional charge at most shops. But very important that you do get that checked, because over time that would cause problems for you. So better to be safe than sorry. Get your alignment checked. And that's it for today's video. I'm glad you guys were able to join me. If you like what you saw, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that thumbs up button or the thumb down. Maybe you didn't like it, I don't know. Yeah. 19.
There we go.
Perfect, thanks. I'll edit all that out.
Okay.
And make sure you're using what comes with your package. Don't try and reuse your old nuts. Old nuts are bad. Holy shnikes.